Improve your English with powerful listening practice. Only with English Evolution.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to today's Deep Listening podcast. If you want to improve your English through real-world stories, powerful vocabulary, clear pronunciation, and slow, natural listening practice, then today's episode is for you. We are not talking about a movie star or a sports hero today. We are exploring one of the most secretive and controversial leaders in the modern world. A man whose name often appears in world news. A man surrounded by mystery, power, fear, and questions. Today, we begin the story of Kim Jong Un, the leader of North Korea. So relax, listen carefully, repeat useful words, and let this biography help your English grow step by step. Kim Jong Un was born on January 8th, probably in 1984, though even his birth year has been debated by outside experts. This confusion itself tells us something important. North Korea is one of the most closed countries in the world. Information is tightly controlled. Facts about the ruling family are often hidden, changed, or presented as propaganda. Kim Jong Un was born into the most powerful family in North Korea. His father was Kim Jong Il, the leader of the country before him. His grandfather was Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea and the first ruler of the state. In many countries, political leaders change through elections or party systems. In North Korea, power passed through the same family like a royal dynasty. To understand Kim Jong Un, we must first understand the country he inherited. North Korea, officially called the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, was created after World War II when Korea was divided into two parts. The North was supported by the Soviet Union, and the South was supported by the United States and its allies. This division later led to the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. Millions died, cities were destroyed, and the war ended with an armistice, not a peace treaty. That means technically the war never fully ended. This history shaped North Korea's deep fear of outside threats and its heavy military culture. Kim Jong Un grew up in luxury that ordinary North Korean citizens could not imagine. While many people in the country faced shortages of food and basic goods, the ruling family lived with wealth, security, and privilege. Reports from defectors and foreign observers describe private homes, imported goods, special schools, and guarded compounds. Yet even inside luxury, life in such a family was not normal. It was highly controlled, political, and full of competition. Children of ruling families are not simply children, they are possible future symbols of the state. One of the most discussed parts of Kim Jong Un's early life is his education in Switzerland. It is widely believed that he studied near Bern under a false identity for several years. This was an unusual contrast. A future ruler of one of the world's most isolated communist states was spending time in a wealthy European democracy. Former classmates reportedly described him as quiet, interested in sports, especially basketball, and fascinated by Western culture. He is said to have admired the Chicago Bulls and player Michael Jordan. These details made many observers curious. How would a young man exposed to Europe later rule North Korea? However, foreign education did not mean political openness. When Kim Jong Un returned to North Korea, he re-entered a system built on loyalty, secrecy, and control. His father, Kim Jong-il, had ruled with a powerful personality cult. Portraits, songs, films, and state messages praised the leader constantly. In North Korea, leaders are not presented as ordinary politicians. They are presented almost as sacred figures whose wisdom guides the nation. Kim Jong Un was raised inside this system from birth. For many years, outsiders knew little about which child of Kim Jong-il would become successor. Kim Jong-il had several children. Kim Jong-nam, an older son, was once seen as a possible heir. But after he was caught trying to enter Japan in 2001 using a false passport, reportedly to visit Tokyo Disneyland, his image was damaged. Another son, Kim Jong-chol, was sometimes described as less suitable for leadership. Gradually, Kim Jong-un emerged as the chosen successor. Around 2009, signs became clearer. State media began preparing the public. Kim Jong-un was given titles and military roles. In authoritarian systems, succession is dangerous. A leader must show strength before taking power. Rivals may appear. Elites may resist. Institutions may split. So succession is carefully managed. Kim Jong-il wanted continuity after his death, and Kim Jong-un became the project of that continuity. In December 2011, Kim Jong-il died of a heart attack while traveling on a train, according to state reports. The world suddenly watched North Korea closely. Kim Jong-un was still young, believed to be in his late 20s. Many analysts questioned whether he could survive politically. Could such a young and inexperienced man control the military, the party, and the security system? Could older officials manipulate him? Would the regime become unstable? The answer came quickly. Kim Jong-un moved fast to consolidate power. He was declared the great successor. Massive public mourning ceremonies were organized. Military leaders stood beside him. State television showed crying crowds. Symbolism mattered. In North Korea, images are political tools. They send messages of unity, loyalty, and inevitability. Soon after taking power, Kim Jong-un began removing possible threats. One of the most dramatic moments came in 2013 with the purge of Jang Song-taek, his uncle by marriage and one of the most powerful men in the country. Jang had been seen as an experienced figure who might guide the young leader. Instead, he was arrested publicly, accused of treason and corruption, and later executed according to state announcements. The event shocked the world. It showed Kim Jong-un was willing to use extreme force even against family-linked elites. This purge also sent an internal message: no one was untouchable. In authoritarian politics, fear can be used to secure loyalty. By removing a senior figure, Kim Jong-un warned others not to challenge him. Some experts saw this as a sign of insecurity. Others saw it as calculated strategy. Perhaps it was both. Another shocking family-related event happened in 2017 when Kim Jong-nam, Kim Jong-un's half-brother, was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia using VX nerve agent, according to international investigations. 2 women carried out the attack, believing they were part of a prank television show, according to legal proceedings and media reports. The killing drew global attention. Kim Jong-nam had lived abroad and was sometimes seen as an alternative family figure. North Korea denied involvement, but suspicion was widespread internationally. While securing power internally, Kim Jong-un also shaped his public image differently from his father. Kim Jong-il was often seen as distant and private. Kim Jong-un appeared more visible. He visited factories, military units, farms, schools, and construction sites. State media frequently showed him smiling, giving guidance and interacting with citizens. He also physically resembled his grandfather Kim Il-sung more than his father did. This resemblance may have helped connect him symbolically to the founder of the nation. Yet behind smiles was a harsh system. Human rights organizations, United Nations investigators, and defectors described severe repression in North Korea. Reports included prison camps, forced labor, censorship, restrictions on movement, punishment of dissent, and collective punishment of families. Independent verification inside North Korea is difficult because access is limited, but the pattern of testimony over many years has been serious and consistent. Kim Jong Un's greatest strategic focus became nuclear weapons and missiles. North Korea had pursued nuclear development before him, but under his rule, testing accelerated dramatically. In 2013, 2016, and 2017, North Korea conducted nuclear tests. It also tested missiles of increasing range, including intercontinental missiles that could reach the United States. These tests changed global security calculations. Why would North Korea invest so heavily in such weapons while remaining economically poor? The regime likely sees nuclear weapons as survival insurance. Leaders in Pyongyang watched what happened to governments in Iraq and Libya after conflicts with Western powers. Nuclear capability can deter invasion by raising the cost of attack. It also gives a small, isolated country leverage in negotiations. However, these programs brought heavy sanctions from the United Nations, the United States, South Korea, Japan, and others. Sanctions targeted trade, finance, luxury goods, shipping, and military-related items. Supporters of sanctions argued pressure was necessary. Critics argued sanctions often hurt ordinary people more than elites. This debate continues globally. In 2017, tensions rose sharply between North Korea and the United States under President Donald Trump. North Korean missile tests and aggressive rhetoric created fear of conflict. Trump used phrases like fire and fury, while North Korea issued its own threats. Many people worried miscalculation could lead to war. On the Korean peninsula, where millions live close to military zones, even a short conflict could be catastrophic. Then came a surprising turn: diplomacy. In 2018, Kim Jong Un met South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Their meeting at the Korean demilitarized zone created historic images. They crossed the borderline together, smiled, talked, and promised efforts towards peace. Families separated since the Korean War hoped for progress. The world watched with cautious optimism. That same year, Kim Jong Un met Donald Trump in Singapore. It was the first summit between a sitting US president and a North Korean leader. The images were extraordinary. Two leaders who had exchanged insults now shook hands before global cameras. The summit produced broad statements about new relations and denuclearization, but details remained unclear. Later, in 2019, Trump briefly met Kim Jong Un again at the demilitarized zone, even stepping into North Korean territory for a moment. It was another dramatic image, but again, symbolism moved faster than substance. Negotiations later stalled. Kim Jong-un's economic policy has often shown contradiction. On one side, North Korea remains centrally controlled and politically rigid. On the other, limited market activity has grown over time, especially informal markets known as Jongmadang. These markets became important after famine in the 1990s under Kim Jong-il. Under Kim Jong-un, some construction projects, consumer goods displays, and urban modernization in Pyongyang suggested selective economic adaptation. Pyongyang, the capital, has seen new apartments, amusement parks, ski resorts, and showcase streets. State media presents these developments as proof of progress, but Pyongyang receives privileged resources compared with rural areas. In many authoritarian states, capitals are polished to display success. Kim Jong Un also emphasized science and technology in propaganda. Schools, computer centers, and research themes were highlighted, yet internet access for ordinary citizens remains extremely restricted. North Korea operates a domestic intranet separate from the global internet for most users. Information control remains central to regime survival. The COVID-19 pandemic created new challenges. North Korea quickly sealed borders in 2020. Given its weak healthcare system, the regime likely feared disaster. Border closures reduced trade, especially with China, North Korea's main economic partner. This deepened shortages and economic stress. For a country already under sanctions, the pandemic likely caused severe pressure. For a long period, North Korea claimed no COVID cases, which many outside experts doubted. Later, the country reported outbreaks described as fever cases. State media showed Kim Jong Un in emergency meetings, criticizing officials and directing responses. Again, crisis management was tied closely to leader image. Another important part of Kim Jong Un's rule is propaganda culture. Massive military parades in Pyongyang display missiles, soldiers, vehicles, and discipline. These events serve multiple purposes. They impress domestic audiences, signal strength abroad, reward loyal institutions, and create dramatic media images. In a country with limited free expression, state spectacles become a language of politics. Kim Jong Un's personal style has also drawn attention. His haircut, clothing, body language, and public appearances are carefully studied internationally. In open democracies, such focus may seem excessive, but in secretive systems, tiny visual clues can matter. Weight loss, weight gain, who stands nearby, whether a certain official appears or disappears, analysts examine all of it for hints about internal politics. His family life remains mostly hidden. He is believed to be married to Ri Sol-ju, who has appeared publicly at events. Their children are largely shielded from public view, though occasional appearances have sparked speculation about succession far in the future. Even family visibility becomes strategic messaging in North Korea. Relations with South Korea have moved between hope and hostility. Some years bring military threats, destroyed liaison offices, missile launches, and angry speeches. Other years bring talks and symbolic gestures. This pattern of tension and negotiation has repeated for decades, not only under Kim Jong Un. China remains North Korea's most important external relationship. China values stability on its border and generally opposes sudden collapse of North Korea, which could create refugees and strategic uncertainty. At the same time, China has supported some international sanctions. This creates a careful balancing act. Russia has also maintained relations with North Korea, and in recent years, ties have drawn more attention amid global geopolitical shifts. When larger powers compete, smaller states sometimes gain room to maneuver. What does Kim Jong Un want most? Different experts answer differently. Some say survival of the regime above all else. Others say security, respect, economic development, and recognition as a nuclear state. These goals can conflict. More weapons bring deterrence, but also sanctions. More openness could help the economy, but threaten political control. This is the central dilemma of North Korea under Kim Jong Un. How to modernize enough to survive economically, but not open enough to weaken the system politically. For ordinary North Koreans, daily life is often far removed from summit meetings and missile headlines. People think about food, work, family, transport, housing, and safety. Defector stories often describe resilience, quiet trade networks, informal markets, and constant adaptation. Human lives continue beneath grand politics. For the outside world, Kim Jong Un represents uncertainty. He controls nuclear weapons in a closed state with limited transparency. Misunderstanding can be dangerous. At the same time, diplomacy remains possible because even hostile states can negotiate when interests align. Some observers compare him to past dictators. Others caution that North Korea has unique history, ideology, and strategic conditions. Easy comparisons can mislead. Kim Jong Un is both an individual leader and the product of a system built before he inherited it. His future remains uncertain, as with all leaders. Will he pursue deeper economic reform, expand weapons further, return seriously to negotiations, tighten repression more strongly, prepare another family successor one day? No outsider can know with certainty. But his story already matters greatly. Few people in the 21st century have inherited absolute power, ruled a nuclear-armed state, shaped relations among major powers, and remained so mysterious to the world. For English learners, this biography teaches useful words like succession, sanctions, propaganda, diplomacy, authoritarian, negotiation, resilience, and strategy. Try repeating these words slowly, use them in your own sentences, and remember, stories help vocabulary stay in memory longer. Kim Jong Un remains one of the most watched leaders alive, not because the world fully understands him, but because the world does not. In silence there is mystery. In mystery there is fear, and sometimes there is opportunity. History will judge what he builds, what he destroys, and what legacy he leaves behind. Thank you for listening today. Keep improving your English every day through stories, biographies, and world history, and I will see you in the next episode.